Today, we're going to do a camera comparison between the Oppo Find X8 Pro versus the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, shooting with the back cameras, I realized that with the ultra wide, it's slightly wider on iPhone versus Oppo. Now, when you're shooting in the shade, it feels like the color on Oppo has a slight more saturation to it. Now, when you're shooting with the sun is hitting on the building, or if the whole thing is pretty much brown, it looks like the Oppo is a bit more flat, or kind of have a more sepia tone to it. Whereas on the iPhone, you can see the sun and the light off the sun is hitting off the building. Now in terms of zoom range, the Oppo can zoom all the way up to 120x, whereas on the iPhone, it's up to 25x. Now for the most part, you will most likely use the ultra wide all the way up to 5 or 6x, which is still pretty good overall, but when you shoot at 25, then the image is not going to look that great on the iPhone. But on the Oppo, it's still pretty decent, and for sure, it's going to look a lot better. Now when you zoom all the way up to 60x, it does use AI to help improve the image. I would say it looks pretty cartoony, but I would say it's pretty handy if you're just using it as a tool to see something from far away. And when you hit the preview button to see the picture, it's pretty cool to see that how it cleans up so well. Now I wouldn't rely on this to take a really good clean picture, but to me I just see it as a tool to use. Now moving on to portrait mode, you do get an additional 3x option on the Oppo, so you do get some more options there. Now as I mentioned earlier, when you shoot a lot of browns, it feels like the whole image is kind of flat or kind of in a more sepia tone. So if you're taking a picture of a person like Saf here, the warmth of the skin tone is showing on the iPhone, whereas on the Oppo, it looks like it's over brightened. Now that could be a good thing if you're shooting against the sun because you can actually see the whole face or body. And personally, it doesn't look too natural, but I would say that this phone is good for casual consumers where all they really want to see is themselves and would naturally think the other picture or the picture from the iPhone looks pretty dark. Now I think this is a direction where Oppo is heading towards, where the specs are good, the phone is good, and the pictures just look great for the casual people who just want to see or take good pictures. Now on paper, the last year's Find X7X Ultra is technically better with the 1-inch sensor, so hopefully when the Find X8 Ultra comes out, then that could be better than the last year's model, and I think maybe they're moving towards the Ultra line to be the more photography phone. It does look like the Ultra Wide and the 5X on the iPhone doesn't perform as good or doesn't look as clear as the Oppo's. Right away, I can see the noise to be more apparent, and it's just a lot sharper on the Oppo in those situations. For the main wide lens, they look pretty close to each other, but I feel like on iPhone you can see more in the shadows, whereas on Oppo it is darker, so it might look more realistic in your eyes. Now for the performance, it's so great on both phones from day and night. I would say the iPhone is slightly more smoother, but even using the Oppo during nighttime, I don't really notice any sluggishness happening. And it is powered by the latest MediaTek Dimensity 9400, so that chipset is really good overall. Now for video, as you can already tell, the stabilization on the ultra wide isn't going to be as smooth on the Oppo, but once you switch over to the main lens, you can see that it has improved a lot. Also, it looks like the Oppo has a higher shutter speed, so as Nick is walking around, there are slight times where he just looks sharper. And shooting with the zoom lenses, it looks like the Oppo has a bit more clarity, and also it doesn't have that faded or flared look to it. Now during daytime, shooting video on the iPhone, it does look like it has that yellowish hue to it, which is something that I notice a lot, and maybe it's because of the warmth yellow look to it from the sun, but on Oppo it does seem like it's more neutral with the skin tone. Now for the stabilization for ultra wide during daytime, it looks pretty good, and I guess the biggest difference here is just the colors. And that goes the same for the zoom lenses, but I noticed as I'm panning around, it does seem like the Oppo has some sort of glitch to it, or more like a jerky movement to it. Now, the overall camera experience on the Oppo is very easy to use, and I do like how I can get a lot of range out of the phone, especially if I'm using it beyond 60x. It doesn't look as noisy as others, and I know it uses AI to clean things up, but I would say it's a tool for me to see from afar rather than taking a good picture. Now for the colors, I don't think it looks the most natural, so maybe for the ones who really like that look may not like this phone, but the area where it is really consistent is having a really good exposed image. Now you may notice I might sound a little bit different. That's because I just started Invisalign, so you might need to get used to this for a pretty long time. But anyways, let me know which one you prefer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.